Zoro, I think, has a really strong point.
My God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Red alert, King of Lightning, Zoro, no. Relax, calm the frick down, goddamn. Relax. Chapter 1124. Zoro made a comment that I think makes a lot of sense. And I think it goes deeper, quite a bit deeper, than what most cats would think. Now, to be fair, I did post that I do agree with Zoro on Twitter, and this did create quite a bit of a back and forth about what Zoro said. People do make valid points, but I think they're missing the greater scope of what Zoro's trying to get at here. And then on top of that, we do have the official translation, so I'll read both the scanned version and the official version of what Zoro says. Frankie, who has gone completely country with that cowboy hat, says this. Let me maintain frame here.
Wow.
We had the 5 elders, an admiral, CP0, the Seraphim, and an armada of warships to get through. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. It's a miracle we got out of that hellscape at all. Then Jinbei says, I'm with you there. But Zoro says this. It's pathetic. He's an emperor. Now, an old man dying shouldn't affect him this badly. Then either Frankie or Jinbei, let's say Frankie. Well, that's a bit harsh. And the official version says this. It was the 5 elders, a Navy admiral, CP0, the Seraphim, and a blockade of battleships. It's such a miracle that we escaped that hell. I still can't entirely wrap my mind around it. Then Jinbei says, and I totally agree. Still, then Zoro says, this is pathetic. He's one of the 4 emperors now, and he's moping over one geezer dying?
Pathetic.
Oh, come on. I think he's spot on. I did say in my video review for this chapter that Luffy is ultimately Luffy. Whether it's 2024, 2014, or 2004, Monkey D. Luffy is still the same kid. Whether he's at 30 million, whether he's at 100 million berry bounty, whether it's 500, 1 billion, or 3 billion, Luffy is still him. This is one of the core messages and aspects of a character's growth in the story of One Piece. The characters maintaining who they are despite the craziness of the world around them. And if you want to see that full review of that chapter, check it out over here. Boom. But let me go deeper into Zoro's comments here, because after the fact, in my Twitter post, I did notice that folks were using Shanks' comments as a counter to Zoro's statement when Shanks talks about how it's okay to cry, how this is exactly what Captain Roger would do when he visited the graves of Whitebeard and Ace after Marineford. But I don't think that Shanks' statement is a counter to Zoro's at all. In fact, I would say that these things exist in different paradigms. 2 things that seem contradictory can exist at the same time. I think what folks are taking at face value is that Zoro is saying, hey, Luffy, don't cry. Like, full stop, don't cry. I don't think Zoro's saying that at all. If Ace died yesterday in the story, and then Luffy was crying today over that, I don't think Zoro would say, hey, stop crying, Luffy. No, he wouldn't. What Zoro is saying is that it seems pathetic to cry over Dr. Vegapunk, this old man's death. And Jinbei, in the official version, in some way you could argue, is slightly co-signing that. And it all kind of boils down to the understanding of what an Emperor of the Sea really means. But I think a lot of folks in the fandom either have forgotten or just have not comprehended it. For all the guys that follow me on this channel, y'all know how I have preached the good word of the Emperors for an extremely long period of time. But as of late, there's been a lot of pushback against this. In this arc, we've seen Kuzan and Kizaru fight. We've seen these immortal 5 elders, the introduction of the Holy Knights, and so on and so forth. And then the last arc, we saw 2 emperors go down. And as a result of all this stuff happening in the past 5-6 years, the Overton window has shifted, but it's been misguided. The proper way to view the title of emperor has been lost to the ether. In the Speed Force, it's gone. But while I am here. So let's do a quick crash course, a necessary refresher on who the emperors are in earnest. No agendas, just pure facts. Let's start off with Garp, because Zoro's comments in a minor way do harken back to what Garp told us at the end of Enies Lobby, when Garp told us exactly how the world works. When Garp meets Luffy and the Straw Hats in Water 7, he talks about the Emperors. And now in the New World, the next part of the Grand Line, there are these pirates that rule the entire sea as if they were what? Emperors of the sea. As a result, the Marines and the Warlord, these two powers, have combined together, working in tandem to try and equal the might of the Emperors. And you can argue that Marineford was the prima case of that. But again, keep in mind the words of Garp. There are 4 pirates that run the entire New World as if they were emperors. The Marines do not run this part of the world, which means by default, so don't the world government, since the Marines are a proxy for the world government when it comes to maintaining military order and might across the world, except for the New World. That also includes who? That includes the Elders, and that includes Emu. Comprehend that for a second. Even though Emu is a prime candidate to be the final villain of the story, and Emu is the entity that sits on the true throne, keep in mind that Emu, who has been the spot for potentially, in theory, centuries, has been unable to gain control of an entire section of their planet. There are some nations that do not, in the Grand Line, and in East Blue or the Blues, they don't serve and pay their taxes to the world government, 1, so they don't rule over these nations, and 2, the emperors rule the New World. There are some kingdoms that we do see in the New World that pay their tributes to the world government, correct. However, the vast majority of them do not. And in fact, the world government, as far as we know, comprises of around 170 or some odd nations that assist them in trying to control most of the globe. But that's only around like 5 times the size of, let's say, Big Mom's Totland in the New World. And that is while she has to vie for power against other emperors in that same treacherous section of ocean. It was only after the time skip that Akainu took Marineford and put it from the Grand Line into the New World. Nowhere near the depths of the New World, just at the very edge, just the tip of the New World. And then the last note for geography is that in the New World, there are these extremely powerful nations. Elbaf, that is touted to have the strongest military on the planet, and Wano Country, that could even defend itself against world government invaders 400 years ago during Ryoma's era. Places like that in the modern day age have friendships, deep friendships with emperors, like with Shanks and the Giants in Elbaf, and were under the control of emperors like Kaido Wano Country, and currently Wano Country has taken up the mantle, the flag of the Straw Hat Pirate. And now we get into the second major point of why this emperor title is so important, and again, why Zoro's words kind of mean a lot. And it's the prominence of an emperor and what that comes with. We see how the emperors are treated in real time, where across the globe, most Marines need permission from their higher-ups to even engage in combat with the emperors. We see this with Blackbeard on Amazon Lily, where the vice admiral there needed to wait for permission from the higher-ups to engage in combat against Blackbeard. But the sword guys have turned in their Marine codes, and so they don't follow the structure of command like normal Marines do. As a result, if anything bad happens, they are easily dispensable by the higher-ups. And we see how even within the world of pirates, the emperor title outweighs even bounties. Law, Kid, and Luffy all have the same bounty of 3 billion. But when Kid found out that Luffy was an emperor of the sea, he tried to take him out immediately. Why? Because even though they all shared the same bounty, Luffy was the emperor, and his importance on the world stage is vastly higher than someone like Kid, even though he has a 3 billion berry bounty. Mihawk has a higher bounty than Buggy, but Mihawk is not a prime mover. Mihawk's presence on the world stage is vastly inferior to Buggy's. Why? Because Buggy is the Emperor of the Sea. Mihawk is not. The title of Emperor comes with an extreme amount of prestige, and it was very, very apparent how much leeway the Emperor's got, where Blackbeard could steal like 800 or 600 Marine prisoners and a battleship. And he only traded that in for Kobe because Kobe pulled a Katniss Everdeen.
I volunteer as tribute.
And keep in mind that most other pirates, for their own safety, they wind up falling in line with emperors for their survival in the new world. And this winds up leading to the third thing after prestige: military might. When you are in a position of power, there are expectations of you, the individual, to act in a certain way that is of your status, of your acclaim. You'll see this in the real world. Let's say, for example, with presidential candidates. Does a candidate appear to be strong, or do they appear to be weak? That is an important thing in many folks' minds in gauging who should be president or not. When you are an Emperor of the Sea, there are expectations of you. If someone attacks your territory, then it is expected that you are going to strike back. You're going to clap back. So if anyone attacks, let's say, Wano country again, and you have the strat flag there, guess what? We're going to send Zoro. Wait. Though sending Zoro's a bad idea because he's going to be, okay, obviously not a good idea. But let's say a large part of the Grand Fleet and all Marines there have to deal with, let's say, Cavendish, Bartolomeo, Ideo, and Hydruden, the Giants. Like, dude, whoa. Damn, like, okay. But that's the expectation. Remember in like Punk Hazard, Law said that emperors have such large and or strong armadas and crews that very rarely do you get to meet an Emperor of the Sea. When Kid first came to the New World, he got his arm shot off or clubbed off. Like, he used this side. Clubbed off by Ben Beckman, man. Yo, hey, that's kind of wild. This man got his arm clubbed off. Hey, yo, bro. I'm gonna stop. In order to fight against an Emperor of the Sea, it comes with a great deal of risk on the part of the Marines and world government. And we see what that risk is. It's Marine Ford once again, if not worse, significantly worse. And this ultimately all ties back to Zoro's comments about Luffy. Luffy should not be moping about because of Dr. Vegapunk's death. And Jinbei, after hearing Frankie listing off what happened to them, in the official version of the chapter, there is that still casting doubt on Frankie's comment a little bit here, which would indicate that, okay, yeah, Frankie, you are correct for sure. And that still could be insinuating many things. One of those things could be, but still, we're a Yonko crew and we should have gotten the job done. Or this isn't really a big deal in the grand scheme of things because of our status as an Emperor crew. Or Luffy shouldn't be moping about and so on and so forth, despite all things we've gone through. Jinbei is casting a degree of doubt in the official version of the translation, which only helps back up Zoro's comments about Luffy, since in the previous panels, in the official translation, Jinbei also notes to how they didn't complete their goal, but ... And even though he agrees with Frankie, Jinbei then says, still ... Yeah, Vegapunk is dead, which sucks. But at the same time, you gotta get over this, man. So it's not to say that Luffy can't cry, but this Vegapunk situation is not it. And that's why Shanks' comments after Marineford do not map on to this situation, because it's like saying that Dr. Vegapunk's death should be treated in the same way as Ace's death. That's insane. If a crew member did pass away, I'm pretty sure Zoro wouldn't say a damn thing about Luffy moping about and crying about it. Vegapunk is just a world-renowned scientist and a man known predominantly for working with the world government and the Marines. He is an important person, but he's not as important as an emperor of the new world. Not even close. Let's say in Bleach, he is the Mairi or the Urahara of the world, but Luffy's status is like more akin to a Royal Court Guard squad member. Yeah, it does suck that Urahara or Mairi passed away, but getting depressed over that all damn day, not even throwing the usual celebration that we do. That ain't it. The idea ultimately is that Emperors of the Sea are them. Even more so now that we see the end of chapter 1121, all these figures that are in the race for the One Piece, because the One Piece can change the very world itself, probably. It's the big four: Buggy, Blackbeard, Luffy, Shanks. And this Emperor position and the stats that comes with it, and then the expectations of what you should do and so on, I thought were more apparent because they seem to be in tandem with Luffy achieving Gear 5. Luffy achieving Gear 5, I thought was like the biggest sign of him being like an actual emperor now. Having the elders fear the Nika ability. In chapter 1044, they literally put themselves in an inferior position to not just the elders, but also Kaido. To me, in a low-key way, what Zoro said speaks volumes to the point where I thought it required an actual other video. What Zoro is saying is very true. Being an emperor of the sea, being a Yonko in a story in a world where pirates matter first and foremost. Not Marines, not Rev, not world government, certainly not the bounty hunters. Pirates matter first and foremost. If you're one of these big four, one of these emperors, then you have to understand your position. So yeah, Luffy is still Luffy. And obviously, him being sad, of course, no One Piece fan, including myself, is gonna fault Luffy for being himself and crying and bawling out. That's what he does, and I think it's fine, and I think it's funny. But Zoro has the right idea. I think Zoro is spot on. I think he has the absolute correct idea, the right mindset. And Zoro tends to have these sort of moments in the story, more so in the pre-time skip and the post-time skip, but they're still there. At times he is right, at times arguably he is wrong. It just depends on the situation at hand. And I'll say right now, I agree with Zoro. I 1000% agree with Zoro. And if you do too, like the video. Of course, comment in the comment section down below. And I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side.
See you. Bye-bye.